let's learn about what is user authentication specifically. So according to NIST, there is a definition which is given by NIST Digital Authentication Guidelines, which says that user authentication, okay, let me underline this word, user authentication is a process of establishing confidence in user identities that are presented electronically to an information system. Okay, somehow through authentication we are trying to establish a confidence in the user identity. Okay, whatever user is claiming, it is the same person who he claims to be. Okay, this is what somehow we want to establish. And to whom we have to establish this fact? We have to establish this to the information system which is there. Okay, so so system can use this authenticated identity to determine if the authenticated individual is authorized to perform a particular function or not. Okay, so they need authentication. And user authentication is somehow defines that process which establish that confidence that yes, this is the exact user that he claims to be, and accordingly you can allow him to access whatever functions that he is authenticated or authorized to access. Okay, so it could be, for example, let's say if you want to do some database transaction or you want to access a particular resource of the system. Okay, so whenever we are dealing with any information system, that information system needs that confidence in our user identity, and this is known as user authentication, right? Okay. Now let's see a generic model of e-authentication. If we talk about the physical authentication process, whenever suppose we want to do a banking transaction in the physical world, what will happen is you possess something, let's say check or something like of that kind. There you write the amount and everything, and then you put your signature. When this particular signature is presented to the bank, they can verify that yes, it is coming from the, so first of all they verify your signature with the signature which is on that particular check, right? Once the verification process is done, they know that yes, this is the same person, who he claims to be, and then they will proceed. But what will happen when we are dealing with the digital world? Okay, how to do authentication in digital world? So let's learn about e authentication model. Now, if you see on this particular slide, there are let's say 5 entities which are involved in e authentication model. Now, depending upon which particular authentication model you are using, these things will change. But this is a generic view or generic framework how e-authentication works. Okay. So the very first entity in this model is the subscriber or the claimant. Okay. And this is the person who actually would like to authenticate himself. Okay. So this is the user. So first of all, the initial requirement for performing user authentication is that the user must be registered with the system. Okay, so now you can see there are 2 boxes. Okay, and this person, the claimant, is common in both the boxes. The first box, or you can say the first step, deals with the registration process. If there is a system which would like to verify your identity, first you have to register with the system. Okay, so this is the first step. Now in this, let's see what happened. So whosoever is the applicant, he will apply for the registration to the registration authority. Okay, so in this one entity is registration authority. Now what this registration authority will do is, registration authority is a trusted entity that establish and vouches for the identity of that applicant to CSP, also known as credential service provider. Okay, so in the first step, the subscriber or the applicant will give some identity proof to the registration authority because he want to do user registration. Okay, so he asked the registration authority to get himself registered. Now what registration authority will do is, registration authority will somehow send the information which is coming from the subscriber to credential service provider, okay, also known as CSP. Now what this CSP will do, the CSP engages in an exchange with the subscriber. Okay, this particular CSP will actually itself send some kind of token or some kind of credentials to the subscriber. After that, what happened, depending upon the details of the overall authentication, CSP then issues some electronic credential to the subscriber. Now the credential is of any form. It could be tokens, it could be some type of one time password or any such thing. Okay, but this is what given to the subscriber from the CSP. Okay, as the name suggests, it is someone who will provide the credentials. Okay, now what happened? So now now this particular token, this is definitely they will be in the encrypted form, right? It could be encrypted password, it could be encrypted key or anything. Now the token may be issued by the CSP will be go to the subscriber, and now whenever the subscriber needs to authenticate himself, he will show these credentials which are provided to him by the CSP. Okay, so first step is user approach to registration authority. Registration authority in turn ask for some identity or something like of that kind. Okay, so there is a communication to and fro. Then all this detail will be given to credential service provider. Credential service provider will verify the things and somehow provide the token or some credential or some encrypted key or some encrypted password to the subscriber, and he will confirm registration authority that registration is done. Okay, so this is first step. In this step, registration has been done, the basic registration, credential has been issued, and then there is some maintenance. If the user want to change the password or change something, then that will also come under or handled by this particular part. Now let's see how actual authentication will happen. So once the user is registered, okay, now in the actual authentication, the party to be authenticated is now known as claimant. Okay, previously we are calling it as subscriber, but now he will become claimant because he is claiming now that I am this person. Okay, and then there is a party which is called verifier. Now this could be different parties depending upon where we are actually presenting our credentials. Okay, so if you are filling up your texts, and or if you are logging into a bank account or something like that, depending upon then that particular service, verifier changes. Now what actually the job of verifier is, whenever the claimant demonstrate that he possesses some kind of token which is given to him by the CSP, verifier verify that claimant using some kind of validation process. Okay, so the verifier knows that this is the one who is giving him the token. He will just verify the things. Once the verification is done, what he will do, he will send the authentication assertion that yes, this is the right person or this is the person who he claims to be, to the relying party. Now the job of relying party is, so once the verifier passes the assertion about the claimant to the relying party, the relying party use this authentication information and it will actually generate an authenticated session for this subscriber so that he can proceed for, whatever action he would like to perform. Okay, so this is the very basic thing that involved in each and every type of authentication whatever we use. Okay, so there are different types of authentication, we will look them in a minute, but this is what will happen in all the authentication services. uh, just to give you a simple example, if you can think of creating an Gmail account, first you need to register yourself to the Gmail server. Okay, and that will considered in this first part. Okay, or you can say this is the prerequisite to be for authentication. Okay, somebody will authenticate you if and only if you are registered to that particular system. Okay, so this is the registration process, and while authentication, you need to provide some kind of password or something like that, and then verifier can verify the thing. And if you notice, then once you log into the Gmail account, if the verifier verifies it and you log in into the Gmail account, then there will be an authenticated session. You can do any type of work without any further verification required. Okay, so authentication is done. This is called authentication session. Yes. Now let's see. Now let's see how this authentication could be done. Now there are four major ways in which user authenticity or user identity can be authenticated. And the four ways are actually very, very common, and we are seeing all these ways around us, right? So the first way is something that the individual knows. Okay, user authentication depends upon something that the individual knows. For example, password, pin, answer to some or the other security question, or previously arranged question, something like that. So this particular type of authentication depends upon what the individual knows. The second type of authentication depends upon what the individual is. Okay, his physical or his biometrics will also use for user authentication, like fingerprinting, retina, face recognition, etc. Okay, so this is something which deals with the static biometrics. This is another way to do user authentication. The third way is something that the individual possesses. Okay, so like for example, smart cards, RFID cards, some electronic key cards, physical keys, or some kind of a particular token, etc. Okay, so what I mean here is some physical thing that the user is carrying is used for user authentication. Okay, and the fourth way to do user authentication is something the individual does. Okay. For example, he says something, he writes something, he types something. So depending upon the behavior of the individual, okay, and it is known as dynamic biometrics. One is static biometrics where the things are fixed, your fingerprints are fixed, your retina is fixed, face is fixed. Whereas dynamic biometric involve, you have to say something, your voice pattern has been recorded, you have to write something, that handwriting is recorded, your typing rhythm is recorded, and etc. There are multiple ways that you will going to see in this particular chapter. Okay, so these are the four broad ways in which a user can be authenticated. Okay, and this authentication process could be a single level authentication process. Okay, so for example, when you open your Gmail account, you have to put your user ID or email ID and the password. You are done. But if you enable two-factor authentication, then you have to insert OTP as well. Okay, so multi-factor authentication means there are multiple layers of authentication. So for example, in this, there is some authentication. So this is level 1, where some security guard is standing, for example. Okay, so in place of the security guard, any security mechanism will be in place. Now there is an authentication protocol. So if the system require password or ID card or whatever it is, Depending upon that, depending upon the protocol, either the client will pass the authentication step or fail. At any point of time when the user fail or client fail the authentication process, he will be thrown out of the system. Okay, if he pass, he will go to next round. In second round, there may be some different authentication protocols, some different security mechanism which is in place. Okay, so on so forth, and this continues. This is known as multi-factor authentication. Multiple times in different ways you have to authenticate yourself. Okay, so depending upon the system, how much security is required for that system, we can have this kind of defense layering mechanism. Okay, all right. One more thing I would like to mention here is risk assessment. Okay, now it is so, whenever you are going to take decisions, for example, which authentication mechanism we have to choose out of these four, this could be one question. How many layers we have to put for user authentication, this is another question, and there are a few more questions, such questions. Basically, risk assessment will play a major role to decide which type of authentication to choose, how many layers of authentication to choose, etc. Okay, and this risk assessment will actually depend on three important concepts. The first concept is assurance level. Okay, we will see what I mean by assurance level, and then there is a potential impact of the authentication, right? So if the authentication fails or something went wrong, what will be the potential impact of that on the system, on the information system which we are dealing? Okay, and what are the areas of risk? So first, let's see assurance level. Assurance level actually describe organization's degree of certainty. Okay, with what degree of certainty a particular organization is saying that yes, the user has presented a credential that refers to his or her identity only. Okay, so this is the level of certainty or level of confidence with which an organization can say that yes, this individual is the one to whom the credential information has been issued. Okay, so it is more specifically defined through these two definitions. Assurance level is, it is the degree of confidence, right, in the vetting process used to establish the identity of the individual to whom the credential was issued. Okay, with what confidence I can say that yes, this email ID and this particular password belongs to this particular user only, who is inserting the credential. Okay, it is the degree of confidence that individual who uses the credential is the same individual to whom this credential was issued in the past. Okay, so it is kind of a assurance, how much assured we are, what confidence we have in that process. Okay, now this particular have four levels. In level 1, it says little or no confidence in the asserted identity's validity. Okay, so this type of sometimes this type of security is also required. So for example, you know so suppose we are dealing with an organization and they are having some discussion forum. Okay, a particular informal discussion forum or something like that, where you just need to insert your user ID and password and you are done. Okay, no, not much verification or things are required. They just want you to be the part of the organization. That's only thing is required. So there we need very little or kind of no confidence, because it doesn't matter like who is entering, but unless until he should be from the company. So only that part has been checked. You can just enter your name and you can join the chat group, right? Level 2 deals with, when some confidence is required, some validity is required, right? So some sort of secure authentication protocol need to be implemented in need of, to verify user identity. So maybe in the previous case, I am just asking what is your username or what is your name. But now I am asking what is your company's ID and the password or something like that. Okay, a little assertion is required. Level 3, where high confidence is required. Okay, so when suppose we are dealing with so till the time when there is a discussion going on, it is okay. But suppose you are filing a patent, you are writing a patent, you are submitting some paper. I mean, some confident information is required, and you want to involve only those people who are actually related with that particular paper or with that particular research. You need to make sure a high level of confidence, right? You need to make sure that in that discussion only those people will enter. So this increases a little more confidence. Okay, so you have to select the authentication mechanism which have more confidence. Okay, then in level 4 deals with very high confidence. So definitely whenever you are dealing with something very confidential, okay, so suppose there are some law enforcement meeting where where there is a database which contains criminal records of many people, and you are actually dealing with that database. Okay, so it is not quite easy. I mean, it is not quite, which does not affect anything. So you need a little more confidence. Okay, so these are the 4 level of confidence or 4 levels of assurance which is there, which comes under assurance level. Okay, so this is little bit negligible or zero confident, and level 4 is very high confident, whereas level 2 and level 3 deals with some confidence and little bit high confidence respectively. Okay, and then the potential impact can be defined as low, moderate, or high, depending upon how it is actually affecting the organization. Okay, if there is very limited effect, no issues. We can consider it as a low impact. Moderate if there is some serious adverse effect. And it is very high if it is severe catastrophic adverse effect, like it is life threatening or something like that. Then definitely we will consider it to be very high. Okay, so this is these are the 2 important things which will help us to do risk assessment. Okay, so potential impact and assurance level, depending upon that we will map these things. Okay, so these are the potential impacts. It could be related with personal safety, unauthorized release of sensitive data, this and that. And then you have to see assurance level impact profile, that where your company stands, and accordingly you will take decision of which authentication mechanism out of the 4 that we have discussed we need to incorporate. Okay, and how many layers of such security mechanism we have to incorporate just for user authentication. Okay,